everyone. Today we got to play Expedition to Newdale. So this is a engine.
It's a campaign game.
It's a campaign game, but there's engine building and there's some worker placement.
Yeah.
Sort of. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because you want to hang out with us some more. Mm-hmm. Randy, tell us more about this particular game.
So Expedition to Newdale, it has a 7.5 rating on Board Game Geek. 1375 is its rank currently. Designed by Alexander Pfister, who we've liked a lot of his games. Great Western Trail being one of them.
That's why I like this.
Maracaibo, Broom Service, Cloud Age. He's done a bunch of good ones. Artist was Clemens Franz, published by Lookout Games. The MSRP on it is $59.99. You can probably find it cheaper some places, but that's what it's going for.
Okay. All right. So quality of pieces. You've got some pretty standard player boards. You've definitely got some standard little houses that you have. You also have pretty generic cards. There's no linen finish. They're okay. They're not great. Overall, I say quality of pieces, probably about a 6. I don't see any more than that.
I don't see anything to put it above a 5, maybe 5.5 for me. There's nothing at all exciting. It's wooden cubes and basic cardboard.
Yeah, I was trying to be a little nice.
Yeah. And it's got stickers, so.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to put them on.
Yes, I did. I just didn't have to put them on today.
All right, so moving on to overall theme. All I know is I'm building stuff across the land and getting resources from them.
Well, there's a story. I mean, this is part 3 of his trilogy, or whatever it turns out to be. So he's got multiple games that go. Actually, I think it was 4 because I think there's 2 in the Oh My Good series, and then there was 1 before that. So this is part 4. So he's got a continuing story that this is all set in. It's kind of like the
Far Above and Below.
Lockhart world, but this is the Newdale world.
Well, I feel like then I should play some of the other games.
Yeah. So so there's as you go through the campaign, there's a chronicle that tells you previously, and it goes back and refers to what happened in the other games, and then it's a very light story, but it's a story.
Okay, cute. So overall theme-wise, the art's okay. I'm not in love with it or anything. It's all right. I'm probably gonna give this a 6 because I don't know the backstory as much, and maybe that would be different if you've played his other games. What are your thoughts?
As far as theme goes, the art's not real exciting. It's got typical iconography of what you see in a lot of these Euro games. As far as it has a story, I like the fact that it's linked, so I'll probably go ahead and give it a 7 for that reason.
Okay. All right, so moving on to rules. So we played this a long time ago.
Yeah, we forgot we'd played it.
And we forgot we played it.
When I got it out, I realized these bags were already set up, and I had to back out some of the cards because it is a campaign that adds cards to the.
Well, I tell you what was hilarious is I was like, "No, we didn't. Are you sure I played this?" And then like as soon as we set up the board completely, and I put one thing down, and he started explaining the rules, I was like, "Oh, we played this. We played this with Robert." Like I'm like, I don't remember any of the mechanics much, but I think I remember the setup. So because I thought the mechanisms were pretty neat.
Yeah.
So what would you give the rules?
Well, the rulebook's pretty clear. I mean, we did, I think, have to refer back once or twice. There wasn't anything really heavy we had to refer to. The cheat sheet was on the player board, but it wasn't really that sufficient to explain some of the detail, which would have been nice. But it does take you through the major steps of the game. It's sectioned nicely, but it's all 2-color, and just trying to find it is sometimes a little difficult. But it has all the tokens in the game, appendix for that, all of the iconography, so that's good. I'll probably go ahead and give this a 7.5. It's pretty decent rulebook. I did find a few typos in there where some things were mistranslated or mistyped, but nothing a bit too heavy.
All right, so overall gameplay. So basically the round is set up in 6 different parts. So the first one is that you flip over the event deck, and the event deck will explain to you the different workers that you will have available around that round thus far that you know. Every round you draw 4 unless instructed otherwise. So this is your basically starting workers that you'll have to use to trigger your production cards. Okay, not different than your actual workers that you place. I don't know. I guess action tokens.
That is your base. You actually will draw 4 additional workers from the bag.
I mentioned that.
Okay.
But that is, the workers are different from then your action tokens. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, so this gives you your start. This is what you know until later on in the game, and we'll go through that when we talk about it. Okay, so then it has a special event. I won't tell you what they are because they're kind of interesting and kind of cool. They have cards that are available to buy, or they'll let you take a certain step of the round again. So I thought it was pretty interesting. It was always kind of a little bit different, and you had to plan, kind of switch up gears. I know there was one event that I was like, oh, okay, I get a double build. Okay, well, I'm not going to take the one action I thought I was going to take, and because I want to save my money for that double build.
And there's extras, so you shuffle and mix to get them, so you don't always get the same events.
All right, so this the second action is that you end up starting with 2 action tokens, but you can end up buying 3 or 4 with one of the action tiles, and you place them down. So there is a communal board that all the actions are the same across all the players. There's no penalty for other people being on the action space or whatever, so there's no restriction movement as far as that's concerned. It's just about your limited action tokens because they are severely limited. And then you also have your actual player deck. So as you build buildings, all the buildings are really production cards almost. Or special ability cards,
the black ones,
except for the black cards that go to the side. But so all of those, so basically you're just triggering production, and that's actually on your player board themselves. No one else has access to those cards that you built. And then the third action is that you end up drawing the 4 meeples that you would to help implement this. So sometimes you're actually taking risks when you place your workers because you may not have enough, or you're taking a risk when you place your action tokens because sometimes you don't necessarily have enough workers right then, but you're hoping that is what is being drawn will complement what you need for that action.
Yeah, so when you said that, you place your tokens, you don't remove them or take the actions yet. You have to wait till after you draw from the bag to see what you
Correct. And then the fourth part of the round is actually doing the action. So you start off with all the ones, starting with the first player. All the ones go, then all the 2s go on the actions, because if you notice, your action dice actually have numbers that you're going to follow. So order does matter, so keep that in mind when you're placing. And then as you take them off, you complete the actions. And then 4, you get a free build, or you get 2 cards, because let's face it, sometimes you just broke. And so the 2 cards, cards are the buildings that you build, or you can trade them in for money or resources or increase your production and other things. So cards are actually extremely useful in this game. And then the last section, obviously, is the 6. It gives you production or give you special action items that are just automatic, and you don't actually have to place a worker on them. So one example is this corn farm here. No matter what, you're going to get 1 corn every round. So it's just a free 2 money income production at that round instead of actually using a worker to produce, which I thought was actually very helpful. I had several of those cards. It was basically like free money every round.
Now, whenever you do build, you're going to place one of your houses on the board somewhere that's within reach. So by default, at the beginning of the game, you have a distance of 2 that you can go. If you go less than your full distance, you get a bonus card. So you can go adjacent to, but if you can't, you can go 1 space additional if you need to. There's no blocking in this game. You can build in the same location as someone else, so there's no restrictions.
But you're limited on the number of houses you had.
Yeah, you only have 10 in the game.
Because if you place right adjacent to somewhere that you are, you get a card. So like I did that, but then I didn't get to be able to go very far to reach some of the other cities that I kind of necessarily wanted to. So just kind of being aware of that, there is strategic.
Yeah.
Most of the actions that are involved, so like I said, you could, when you place your action tokens, some of them consist of buying more action tokens. You can trade cards for coal or additional resources. You can draw cards. You can remove blockades that increase your certain abilities like travel and card exchanges. And then the last one is an extra build. So you can do any of those things. your action, you can only take one action of that action though. So for example, if I put one on build, I can't put a second action on build. Or if I put over here in these little, each card can only be triggered once. So no matter which of the 3 slots you selected, that location is also locked. So that's kind of the general synopsis of this, obviously. So how do you win, right? So there is victory points that you can gather. A lot of it is for building buildings. At the very end, there's typically an objective, so a secret objective that you have, and then a objective that everybody knows. So they're trying to go after. And then you can also gain points by certain locations to build on, or there's certain cards that, like, I really upset with myself because there's one that changed 2 coal into a victory point. And if I had realized, I mean, that's essentially 2 money for 2 victory points. That was pretty phenomenal. But I passed that up. I shouldn't have done that. But it was my first round, and I couldn't really remember the game very well. So there's a lot of things that you can do to gain victory points, and obviously the person with the most victory points wins the game. Overall, I love the engine building of that because you can take one resource from one card and transform it into another resource. So that's actually really amazing. I like that piece of it. And there's definitely engine building, and you got to manage your cards, and there's a lot to do, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. The map seems kind of lackluster in the fact that I don't feel like there's a lot to accomplish in the map.
Well, first of all, the board is the first game board.
Oh.
There's 2 additional boards, and they're 2-sided, so you're going to have a different layout. I don't know how much different they're going to be, but it is going to change. So I really like the campaign aspect of this. The fact that you're adding cards into the deck each time. It's going to change each time as far as what your goals are. The fact that the terrain changes, so you're basically moving through this land, which is really cool. So yeah.
I kind of want to actually play through the campaign. I know we rarely ever get to, but I really enjoy this game quite significantly. What would you score it though?
Well, the basics of it are really simple. There's not a lot to it. I think
but
it would get stale if it weren't for the fact that there's a campaign that changes the game each time. I think I'm probably about an 8 on this because I think it's good, but I think it would get old if it weren't for the fact that you're playing through the story. So I don't know how much repeat ability this is going to have once you've played through the whole campaign.
What are you
would you want to
talking
reset
about?
and start over? It is fun. I like there's not any interaction between players. I like player interaction. I know you don't. I like player
I think that may be why I love this game a lot more than you. It feels like. I feel like I'm like, why are you talking this
like
game?
The fact that when I do
it.
something, it can become an impediment to another player, and maybe later in the game it will be. I don't know. This is the thing with the campaign games. You never know until you've played the whole campaign how much it's going to change.
I like the fact that you can't mess with me. I just have to build better. Thanks.
And most
you can't
worker
steal
placement
people's
games,
cards up there.
Well, you can draft a card that somebody might need, but you don't really know what their goal is either. But most of the goals are tied to the board as far as where you're going to go.
Yeah.
So they're not really related to the cards. The cards are related to the common goal. So from that standpoint, we're both going for the same thing. So it would make sense we would both draft for the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't mention that you also get these tokens that give you a one-time benefit when you place your building, depending on what area you build it, which is kind of.
I will say they helped me.
Very helpful.
They helped me right there at the end because I had a bunch. I just was like, what am I supposed to do with
these? They pulled you back into the game because I was dominating for most of the game.
Yeah, and it ended up. Yeah, it pulled me close. Well, because I just hadn't used them, but then you had used them throughout the whole entire thing. Mm-hmm. So like. If I would have used them appropriately, I think I could have got more victory points out of them, but B, not as well, but I could have gotten additional cards because they gave me victory points. So I didn't really play that well because I just kind of ignored them until the end, and I was like, ooh, how am I going to win this? Oh, look, I have all these things that I haven't used yet. Maybe I should use them. So, but it's been so long since we played, I vaguely remembered, but then I couldn't, so it's just something to learn. I can't wait to kind of play again. I'm totally okay doing that. Score-wise, so you gave it an 8. I'm probably going to give this an 8.5. I really, 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 really liked it. I want to play this again. I am not concerned about playability because it's let Miranda build her own world. That is totally my thing. I just want to build it better than you. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, and hopefully we'll catch you guys again later.
Bye.
Bye.